Well guys, welcome back to the nest. I hope you're all keeping well. Even though it's only been a few days, it's time for yet another movie reaction. And I gotta say, this movie was crazy. It's another horror film, but I gotta say, it's starting to push a wee bit more boundaries, like The Exorcist did, and A Clockwork Orange. But, well, Clockwork Orange wasn't really much of a horror film, but you know what I mean, it's pushing more boundaries. Tonight's movie reaction is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Do you guys really want to know what my first reaction upon watching this movie was as soon as the first scene happened? I even needed the intro just to see what kind of movie it was. This is my reaction when I saw the intro. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was my reaction. Because the first thing you see is just all these dead bodies, and you hear a news report of grave robbers taking over the cemetery. And they've been leaving like the skulls, like the horribly disfigured skulls, just lying on the grave markings for everyone to see. I did find out that this movie was banned. It's no bloody wonder why. It's so gory. Yeah, not banned in all over the place. Like only in certain countries it was banned, and the director even tried getting a PG rating, but he couldn't. Like, no matter how many gore he tried to bring down, how much gore he tried to lessen, he still managed to get an R rating, even though he tried to get in PG. I don't know if I mentioned this in my Psycho reaction from 1960, but that movie was kind of based off, like, a real-life serial killer. This movie also has the same inspiration. I'm not going to say why just yet. I'll get into the story a wee bit more. But yeah, apparently people were really upset by this movie at first because of the amount of gore. I think this is probably like the first proper horror film, with jump scares, with gore, proper slasher. The killer is now using power tools as weapons. I'll get into the killer in a wee minute, so well. But the film follows these 5 young friends in a minivan on the way to Texas to visit this old abandoned family house. I did find out that this film was shot in Texas itself, the Great South. On the way, they pick up this hitchhiker. I don't know why they decide to pick up this guy, because he has blood smeared all over his face. You can even just see that he's mentally deranged. Like, he attacks the disabled guy, Frankie, with this razor blade, all because he didn't pay him for a photograph. He literally creates a mini fire in the minivan. You let someone like that in with blood smeared on their face, with the long hair and that creepy smile. You do know something wrong's going to happen, and then they just throw him out. See, this is what happens. This is what happens in horror films. You come across an absolute psycho, and then you let them into your life, and you end up regretting it. So you do. So this is what the guy does. Get out! You think they'd learn their lesson after this? They come across this gas station, but unfortunately, I don't know why, they have no petrol left. Aren't petrol stations already meant to have like unlimited amount of petrol? They should just have the next stock prepared, but I don't know, maybe they deliberately do that because the owner of the gas station says to them, "Why don't you fellas wait around for a little while?" You can already tell that this guy's up to no good. Whenever they find the abandoned house, I gotta feel so sorry for Franklin. Like, he has to wheel himself through the whole house, nobody there to help him. Guys, you up there? I don't know. But Pam and Kirk, both a couple, they decide to go off into the lake just to have a wee bit of time to themselves. But they see in the distance a very ordinary looking farm. Yeah, I mean, it's got a windmill, it's just got like a broken down car, the typical farm out in Texas. And I don't know why Kirk thought this is a good idea. He decides to go into the house. Hello? Anybody home? Anybody home? And then out of nowhere, this big, tall man wearing a mask made out of human skin just pops out of nowhere and just bludgeons him to death. Pam goes in to investigate, and as soon as she goes into the house, the rooms are scattered with these decaying bones, like even like skulls of dead sheep. And they've even created a couch made out of decaying human or animal bones. And then the man turns up and he places Pam on this massive hook. She basically gets a big fucking hook shoved right up her ass. Then the worst comes. The chainsaw. Jerry goes on to investigate because obviously it's been a long time since Kirk and Pam have showed up. And whenever he goes into the house, he basically, the same thing just happens to him. He just gets killed. See, this is why I don't like when people go into the place you're not supposed to in a horror film, because you just end up regretting it. It's the end of your life. You're done. It turns out that the man in this movie who uses the chainsaw is called Leatherface. I did hear he's quite a big icon in horror because of this movie. But I don't really know if he's truly evil, and I'll tell you why in a wee minute. But as night falls, Franklin and his sister Sally are just waiting out in the dark. Obviously, they can't drive anywhere because the van's just run out of fuel. And then Leatherface just appears out of nowhere. You know, you just wait a while. Jerry! Jerry! And Franklin gets a chainsaw just right across his belly. I'm surprised his intestines didn't pop out. This is actually the second time where we get a final girl in this movie. As you remember in Black Christmas, you should check out my reaction to that. Sally becomes the final girl. She runs away. Can I just say, I'm actually really surprised at the girl who plays Sally. I'm actually wondering if her vocal cords were damaged, because for the rest of the movie, she's just screaming non-stop. Maybe they took breaks in between filming because obviously they had to let her rest her voice, because I do know like screaming so much can actually damage your voice to the point where you'll need to get surgery. And that's why you need to be so careful not to scream so much, especially if you're like a specific singer, because I do know some genres of music, especially like heavy metal music, you scream in a correct way that you'll just damage your voice where you'll need to get surgery. Anyway, Sally makes the biggest mistake of running back to the gas station, because it turns out that the owner is in on it. He's in allegiance with Leatherface, and he wraps Sally up in this big massive bag that's used for the potatoes. Don't worry, you're safe. No one's gonna hurt you. On the way back to the house, he comes across the hitchhiker, who also happens to be in on it. And it also turns out that the hitchhiker is the grave robber who's been leaving all the dead bodies all over the cemetery. And he's getting an absolute balking for it, so he is. I told you to stay away from that cemetery. You almost got caught on the news. Yeah, okay, I messed up. It turns out to be a whole family. The hitchhiker and Leatherface are brothers, and Leatherface just turns out to be following orders. And there's an old, decaying, elderly man, stuck up in the attic. And Sally came across him whenever she was trying to escape. And they're just a whole family of cannibals. Like fucking cannibals. It wouldn't surprise me if there were people like that in real life. And whenever you see them all sitting at the dinner table, Sally is just extra freaked out. And, the hitchhiker's obviously glad to see her. They did try and make a big lie, whenever they were all in the minivan at the beginning of the film. And I think this is the part where Sally has just reached her breaking point. She has just gone insane after seeing the hitchhiker again, right up in her face, whenever she gets the potato bag out of her vision. Yeah, I thought you were in a hurry. Finally, you see them all eating dinner. I wonder what they have with the human meat. Do they have like roasted vegetables or couscous or potato salad? You never know. You just imagine you just have an ordinary farm out in Texas, seemingly normal, but there's a whole family of cannibals just sitting there. The part where they cut Sally's finger, I actually found out that they actually did have to cut the actress's finger, because they had no prop in order to obtain theatrical blood. They had no theatrical blood with them. They couldn't use a tube, so they had no option but to just get a piece of razor and just cut her finger. that wasn't the only injury that the actress suffered from. I also found out that her clothes were drenched in fake blood. That the day that filming of this movie was finished, like, her clothes were practically frozen solid because of the amount of blood. Can you just imagine running? Your clothes are that dirty, like they're like cardboard. Like you could literally just snap it in half, like a box or something, like a cardboard box. And the whole reason why they cut Sally's finger is just so the old man, Grandpa, who they call Grandpa, go ahead and get your grandpa. It's just so he can suck her blood. It is absolutely horrific, and I don't even know whether Grandpa is dead or alive, because he's capable of sucking on a girl's finger to obtain her blood, and then he actually tries to kill her by using a hammer, but he's got such a shit grip. I don't know. Is he alive or dead? Because obviously he's really old and decaying, but luckily because of his poor grip, Sally manages to escape, and the hitchhiker and Leatherface are in hot pursuit. But then this big massive truck appears and it just flattens the hitchhiker to death, so it does. That's the end of him. But whenever the driver tries to help out, Leatherface very nearly manages to get the upper hand, and whenever he hits Leatherface with a wrench, he very nearly cuts his own leg off with the chainsaw. Very lucky that he didn't lose a leg. Like he was this close to losing a leg. Wouldn't have been able to keep the chase up. He would have had to hop the whole way. At the very last second, Sally manages to escape on the back of a pickup truck because, covered in blood, the driver obviously sees, oh, looks like that girl needs help. There's someone with a chainsaw chasing her. And I think at that point, Sally has just lost all insanity. You just see her looking back at Leatherface on the back of a pickup truck. And Leatherface just goes into full tantrum mode, swinging his chainsaw while the sun sets. No dinner for me! End of the film. I gotta say, there wasn't really a lot of music during this film. You didn't even need to. The whole audio was just creepy enough. You just hear the noises as if you're inside a big slaughterhouse or something. It didn't even need a theme song. That's what the theme song to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. Just slaughterhouse noises. The ambience. And that's what makes the film even creepier during the credits, so it does. I will say about Leatherface, I don't really think he's truly evil. Like, obviously he has an illness. Like, he's not all there. Obviously his whole family isn't exactly sane. But I think Leatherface rather just kills out of fear because his family tells him to do so. He's not manipulated by his family. He's mentally ill. His brother and his father and his dead grandpa, they basically force him into killing people, and he's scared to do it. He's scared of going against them because he knows that possibly if he doesn't kill, then he'll get killed himself, and he'll most likely be eaten by his family. And that's probably why he wears this mask, just to show that he's a killer. To show his family that he actually is a cannibal. He'll actually wear a mask made out of human skin. In a way that there kind of is some sympathy for Leatherface, if he's only following his family's orders, but still wrong to kill them, to kill his victims, obviously. But yeah, this was one crazy movie, guys. I will say there's only one more film to do from this year that I'm on at the minute, and then I'm going to be making the personal video because we're coming up to hopefully the breakthrough of this channel. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you all to death. Don't forget to turn on the notifications, especially because the last video only got 10 views. I'm trying my hardest with this channel, guys, but the breakthrough is coming up, hopefully, guys. I love you all to death. Don't forget to turn on notifications. Comment what you would like to see next. Subscribe. Tell all your friends and family. I shall see you guys in the next video. Love you all to death.